Hello, welcome to the Delphi. Please do come inside before it starts snowing in spring again. Follow me. Okay, welcome to this beautiful old theatre here. It was built back in the 1920s in Berlin. Of course, the neighborhood we're in as well, Weissensee, actually used to be known as Little Hollywood back then as well. The street, Gustav Adolfstrasse, used to have 20 cinemas on there. And Marlene Dietrich, of course, I'm sure you know, she actually started her film career just around the corner from here. Weissensee is not so glamorous anymore, but we do have a little surprise for you just around the corner. Follow me. This place, the Delphi, unfortunately became abandoned in 1959. You can still see it needs a bit of a lick of paint. We are trying to work on that, but follow me to the best bit. This is very lovely. The actual theatre section here, beautiful old place. When it became abandoned, was used for lots of different things. It was a laundrette. They used to store vegetables here during the DDR. And you might recognize it as well from Babylon Berlin, the TV show. When things go back to normal after the virus, please do come and check it out. It's a great venue. And now the main reason that we actually came here, we're going to talk about Ciarán's amazing project, Abandoned Berlin. It's going to be interviewed by Jennifer. So please do enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Alex, for the wonderful introduction. Tremendous job. We're here today in the Delphi to talk about the Abandoned Berlin project. I'm going to answer questions which will be posed to me by the wonderful Jennifer Collins here beside me.
Well, I'll just get into kind of how you started with the project, I guess. How did it come about? How did this kind of obsession with abandoned buildings start?
Okay, it started in 2009 when I first went to Spray Park. It's this old abandoned fairground in Berlin beside the river. It's pretty famous now, but at the time, all my friends, none of them wanted to go over the fence. So I think I only knew Germans at the time, and they were all put off by the sign that said, no trespassing or whatever. So I eventually plucked up the courage to go in, went inside and had such a crazy experience. Like, it was just a magical place that I wrote about it when I went home. So I work as a journalist anyway, and I guess I was compelled to write about it. And when I wrote about it, I found out that there was an even more, like, the crazy story behind it of the Witte family and drugs, and yeah, there was all kinds of things going on. So when I wrote about it, I thought it was a shame that no one else really seemed to know about it, or it was just abandoned. It was forgotten about on the edge of the city. And I thought it should be shared, that other people should really make use of it as well. So I wrote about it and wrote a kind of tongue-in-cheek guide, like how to get in and what to watch out for and what to bring and all this kind of stuff. And that was it. And then somebody else told me about Teufelsberg, which was the old Cold War listening station. Someone else told me about Krampnitz, which was this old German military camp later used by the Russians, and the places just followed each other then. One place led to another, and before you knew it, I was writing about all these abandoned places all over Berlin and around Berlin, so it just kind of grew from that.
Yeah, like you had your second book out there, I guess it was a year ago now, and I remember reading in the foreword, you mentioned how you felt like it was really important to tell the stories of these buildings, right? And you kind of wanted to remember other people's memories, and about these like best laid plans that people have. And I guess like a kind of hubris that humans have and an optimism that humans have when they, build these grand schemes. I mean, like why is it that you think it's so important to tell these stories?
Well, it's definitely important to tell the stories because I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned. I mean, it's not normal for a building to be abandoned in the first place. If you think, for example, the Delphi here, was built in 1929, used as silent film theater, and it reopened after the war then. It was one of the first places to reopen, but it closed in 1959 and was just forgotten about and pretty much abused. And I think there's a lesson there for people to be more careful with their buildings, perhaps, that they should take more care of them, they should cherish what they have, they shouldn't just, building stuff without thought for what they would be used for. There are other stories as well. I mean, for me, I guess the interest in an abandoned place is the fact that it doesn't have a normal story. It always comes from something traumatic has happened to the place. And I guess I have this kind of burning curiosity about digging into what happened here, what went wrong, whose plans got messed up or whatever. And they're always interesting stories.
Do you think that there's something like distinct about Berlin in that regard? That there's more abandoned places, or is there something special? Or could this be anywhere, you just happen to be here? Or is there something about this city?
I think there's definitely something about Berlin. I can't answer the question really honestly, because I would need to live in each of other cities to make that to make that observation. But I think Berlin is kind of unique in that it has had such a messed up history with the two wars and the Cold War and the division of the city. I mean, that is all these momentous things have left their mark on the city. And I mean, so many of the places I've written about are directly related to the division of the city, or the subsequent, reunification of the city then as well.
So they kind of like fell through the cracks, so to speak, or
Yeah.
fell through the cracks of history in a way, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, more recently, I think with Berlin, it's kind of entered a bit of a development phase. I feel like, reading your, website posts and knowing you as well, and that seems to be quite a topic for you, like that you like to and you talk about it in the book as well, like this kind of you feel like it's like a sanitizing of history. I mean, why is that something that you kind of really focus on?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think Berlin is quite, I mean, in Germany, it's quite rightly lauded for not glossing over the past, what happened in the war, the Holocaust and so on. I mean, it's something that's Germans are very much aware of, and there's Germany should be commended for that. Having said that, there are quite a lot of things which are kind of, forgotten about or swept under the carpet. And I think that money is a big driving force in Berlin when it comes to deciding what should be preserved and what not. I mean, there's so many developments, like, for example, down at the East Side Gallery, that they decided to build apartments or luxury apartment buildings beside it, when that should have arguably been preserved instead. Or you had the old Tacheles building, which was a famous squat, and it became a sort of an arts center. But because it was in central Berlin, in such a prime location, it's now been converted into something else, like a shopping center with apartments. And there are so many developments that are driven by money. And I think when the city comes to deciding what should be preserved and what not, there's always a financial aspect to it.
Yeah, there's a real tension there between the kind of preservation of this and then the
I mean, Spree Park, for example, is a good example of that. It's been abandoned for, it was abandoned in 2001, and in recent years it was bought back by the city, which now plans to reopen it, but not as before. So it's going to be a sort of a watered-down culture park, which in effect means that they're going to reopen it as a park, but without the fun. So, I mean, nothing against culture, but they're not going to have roller coasters, or they're not going to have merry-go-rounds or any of the stuff that was in the original Spree Park, because that would be too expensive for the city. So they've decided instead, okay, what's cheap, what's the best option here? Let's go with that.
Sounds like great crack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about, having to pluck up the courage to get into Spree Park when you first started doing it. I mean, have you got any kind of mad stories? Like, I mean, surely something crazy has happened when you've tried to get in, like you've been caught, or I don't know. It was a ghost.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually caught in Spree Park before by a security guy who was very aggressive, and he wanted me to delete all my photos on the camera, which I just refused point blank, because I mean, once you delete the photos, they're gone, that's it. But after pretty much threatening me and threatening to punch me in the face, he said, well, actually, you know, you can fill in a form for 20 euros or whatever, and then you get permission. I'm like, okay, why didn't you say that in the first place? But anyway, I did that, and that was fine. I've been caught on other occasions as well, usually by security, but they're usually happy enough when they see it's just some guy with a camera taking pictures for reasons that they do not understand, and that like I'm not a vandal or whatever, that I'm not setting the place alight or damaging places or whatever. Yeah, there've been other hairy experiences as well, where like ceilings have fallen in rooms I've been in, or where you climb like buildings to a great height and then suddenly you get the feeling, oh no, I've climbed too high. But then there was also the time in this submarine bunker where I thought I wouldn't be able to get out again because it was getting dark outside, and this was under the ground, and I just knew I'd only be able to find a way back out again from the daylight coming in from outside. So I was afraid I'd end up having to sleep there overnight while while waiting for the morning to come again.
Were you waiting, or were you there by yourself? Do you
Yeah.
normally go by yourself?
Yeah, I was there on my own. I usually go to these places on my own because you have more of an immersive kind of feeling when you're there. So you know, it's quite nice to go with someone for, you know, company and a chat and a bit of a laugh or whatever, but you end up talking about stuff outside the experience. And if you're on your own, you can kind of really immerse yourself in the building or wherever you are and get a feeling for what may have been there before, or it's more of a kind of a spiritual experience.
Oh, spiritual.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talked a little bit there before about getting caught a few times. I mean, I think one of the things that people wonder as well is like, how legal is this? And also, I know there's a bit of pushback sometimes from people being like, well, why are you publishing the addresses and telling people how to get in? Like, I mean, yeah, how do you respond to that? Like, what?
Obviously, yeah, trespassing is generally illegal pretty much everywhere. In Germany, you have quite a lot of like Betreten Verboten signs all over the place. But the way I see it is, you know, if the place is abandoned, whoever owns the property has decided they don't really care for it anymore, so they can't complain too much then if people go in and climb over fences or whatever to have a look around. As regards people, yeah, there's quite a lot of pushback from other people who enjoy doing the same thing regarding my publishing of addresses. So I genuinely publish the addresses so that other people can find the places, because they all have very short lifespans anyway. Most of them are threatened by development or, you know, passing of time, but it's usually development. So while I understand why people would be annoyed that their addresses to their favorite places are being published on the web, I would say that the benefits outweigh the negatives there.
Do you not think in some cases that development of these properties is kind of good? Like, it could be a good thing, or do you think it's like depends on what it is? Like,
I think it very much depends. I think the Delphi here, for example, is quite a good example of a very kind of tasteful refurbishment of a place. It still has its original function, and it still retains its old world kind of charm or whatever. And I mean, for a start, it hasn't been knocked down and turned into apartments, which is usually what happens to these places. So I think that's good.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a bit of a race against time then? Are there still places that you really want to visit? You know, I know you've visited quite a few in the time that you've been doing the project, like, but is there something that's still really on your list?
I mean, I've been to over 100 places easily. I don't know how many I've actually documented now, because I've been to places as well that I haven't had time to research or whatever, or to take pictures of. So I have a long list of places I still need to get to, and it's just, yeah, it is a race against time, because you want to get there before they're gone, before they're knocked down or whatever. And yeah, I need to get busy with that. Yeah.
What's like kind of been a highlight? What's been your favorite place?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have quite a few favorites. I mean, Spree Park is kind of like the first love, but the dinosaurs have kind of dwindled in the years since, and it's not really
Gone extinct.
Yeah, yeah, they've all been kidnapped actually. The mammoth is gone. The Ferris wheel is gone now as well, so it's not what it used to be. You have the old Soviet military base of Vogelzang, which is also very nice because there were so many murals and statues and, you know, Lenin statues and stuff like that. So I love the old Soviet art that they have in these places. And yeah, I mean, there's quite a few nice places to go. Pretty much any Soviet camp is worth visiting for the art. And yeah.
So what's next for Abandon Berlin?
I hope to do more film work actually. So just recently done a little film about Flugplatz Oranienburg. So the idea is to do more of that kind of work. So more kind of moving photography, and yeah, we'll see where that leads.
Okay, cool, great. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for the chat.
Okay.
That was really interesting.
Thank you.
Da 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 da.